Sir?
We can start right now.
Bolo.
Yes.
Oh, so should I
I
start?
would request our technical help to make this session live.
Yes.
So, Anjita, make it live, okay?
Yes,
And,
yes, ma'am.
Voice sir, should I start or wait?
Yes. Our respected speakers have joined.
Yes, both the speakers have joined.
And I can find that only 45 in, but
Yes.
number of people joined is less, 45. And what about
Yes. Okay, I
YouTube?
think
How many numbers there?
here we can say 100 we can accommodate here.
Yeah.
So it's just 4, 5. So I think
They're all live. We have gone live.
Okay.
so voice sir, let's start. It is all 72, I think.
Yes.
Let's start. Yes.
Yes. People really join.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I'm
On down noise
Participants
is
have
there.
their mic mute. All the participants are requested to keep their microphone off.
Who is Naina Sutradhar?
Microphone and
Please
video.
mute yourself. Naina Sutradhar, please mute yourself.
Microphone and the camera. Microphone and camera also for the normal participants.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Maharaj, Google Meet.
Jhuma Haldar, mute yourself. Jhuma Haldar. Jhuma Haldar, mute yourself. Okay. So, respected officer in charge, IQAC coordinator, respected speakers of today's webinar, and all the participants on board. A very good afternoon to all of you. The Postgraduate Department of Geography of Krishnagar Government College, in association with IQAC, has gathered here to hear from renowned Professor Dr. Ashis Sarkar and teaching fellow from University College of London, Dr. Raktim on the theme, The Contemporary Urban Scene. Department of Geography of Krishnagar Government College started its journey from 1996. From then on, it has been showing its excellence in both undergraduate and postgraduate teaching courses. Initially, it started the journey under the affiliation of University of Calcutta, Subsequently, it has come under the University of Kalyani. From the beginning, the department has been continuously striving towards improvement and betterment in all aspects of imparting education to the students to make them well-rounded in all spheres of the subject as well as in their daily lives. All the students, teachers, teaching assistants of the department feel very proud to be a part of the legacy of this college, which is currently celebrating 175 glorious years of its existence. At present, the world is facing an unprecedented situation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lockdown, quarantine, containment zone, etc. have now become household terms. Amidst these conditions, we congregate here trying to be in tune with the new normal situation. We have received overwhelming responses from different parts of the country and also from various corners of the world. More than 1,700 participants have registered to be a part of this international webinar. Besides the students from our institute, respondents include students, research scholars, faculties from different colleges and universities. Teachers, GIS specialists, GIS engineer, financial advisor, educationists, and social activists have also shown their interest. The special character of geography is truly reflected as participants flock here from USA, UK, Netherlands, UAE, Dubai, Nepal, and Bangladesh. A heartfelt welcome to all attendees and a big thank you for participating in this endeavor. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to respected officer in charge sir for his support and encouragement in organizing the webinar. We are fortunate to have well-known speakers with us who will highlight urban morphology, urban designing through maps from historical past to the present and on various aspects of informal politics of the urban. So, prepare yourself to be challenged, excited and inspired. Finally, before I hand over to the officer in charge, sir, I want to say once more on behalf of the organizing committee of the Department of Geography, welcome. Now, I would like to request our officer in charge, sir, Dr. Shobhan Neogi, to deliver the welcome address on behalf of the college. So, sir, please.
Okay.
Voice, sir,
Thank you,
please.
Dr. Mahato, HOD, Department of Geography of Krishnagar Government College. Namaskar and good afternoon to you all present in this web platform for today's one-day international webinar being organized by our Department of Geography, Krishnagar Government College. The Department of Geography only in 1996, a comparatively new department in a college which is already celebrating its 175th year of establishment. But this department, though little bit new, it has established itself as one of the finest departments of the college, both in UG and PG teaching. I wholeheartedly welcome Professor Ashis Sarkar, WBSES, who has retired from our government formal service a few years back, and I welcome Dr. Raktim, teaching fellow, University College of London. I am overwhelmed to know that in this webinar the total participants is nearly one. I also welcome my beloved students, my colleagues and students and teachers and other participants from throughout the world who have joined this and forming this about 1,800 viewing list. Krishnagar Government College is celebrating its 175th years of establishment. The grand opening program started started on 27 November 2019, and we planned a lot for the year-long program for this occasion, but since March 2020, as we know, the cloud of COVID-19 has pushed all the students and teachers back to home. But academic interaction continued with the students by various online modes. But now a new opportunity of higher level of academic activity opened in front of us by using Google Meet and YouTube platforms in the name of webinar. With very sincere efforts from all of us and the respected speakers who are presenting their views on various topics, has become a very valuable platform for exchange of academic ideas. I once again welcome Professor Sarkar and Dr. Ray in this webinar, where more than 1,500 people are eagerly waiting to listen to them. I now pass to Dr. Amoris Mondal, IQAC Coordinator and Associate Professor of our college. Dr. Mondal, please, for your...
Sir, now you please pass on
Dr.
to
Amoris
Indrita
Mondal?
Shah.
Okay.
Sir. Okay, Indrita.
Okay. So,
Sir, Indrita
please.
will say something. It's time for... Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Before starting on this journey, I would express our deepest condolences on the demise of Professor Chinmay Bhattacharya. Yesterday, he was the former head of Department of Chemistry of Krishnagar Government College. So we express our deepest condolences on his demise. And now coming back to the webinar. According to the United Nations, by 2050, at least 68% of the world's population will be living in the urban areas. The cities are already overcrowded. The real estate market have grown by leaps and bounds, and there's a dearth of affordable place in the urban areas that can promote sustainable living. Urban mapping here plays a pivotal role in measuring, monitoring, and planning a city for its proper functioning. To present on urban mapping, we have our first speaker, Professor Ashis Sarkar. There's hardly anyone in the geography community who doesn't know or haven't heard of Professor Sarkar. He has directly mentored hundreds of students during his tenure in Chandanagar College, Haldia Government College, and Presidency College. However, he reached many more students across the globe through his books, most popular being the Practical Geography. Without much ado, I would request Professor Ashis Sarkar to deliver his lecture. Over to Professor Sarkar.
Thank you, Indrita.
Thank you.
Thank you, the faculty organizing committee of the journal. Thank you, officer in charge, Krishnagar Government College, IQAC coordinator of the college, for inviting me to this webinar. And thank you all the participants from all over India and West Bengal and even outside our country for participating and joining this seminar. The theme is Contemporary Urban Scene, and
আশিস সরকার বেরিয়ে গেছে।
And I think
some technical problem is there. Please wait.
Yes, sir has left.
Sir will join very soon.
Yes, sir. Sir, please.
yes,
Okay, sir, continue.
in this webinar, rather, I am going to share my views about the contemporary urban scene through presentation. দেখা যাচ্ছে এটা? Can you see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, it's okay.
হ্যাঁ স্যার দেখা যাচ্ছে দেখা যাচ্ছে
Okay, thank you. So, let me make a brief summary of what is going on. The contemporary urbanization has led to a sea change in demographics, land cover, economic processes, and geographical characteristics of an area. It is changing rapidly and in multiple dimensions, transforming thereby the relationship between cities and the global environment. It creates the human-dominated landscape and drives our local and regional environmental changes by transforming the land cover, hydrological systems, and biogeochemistry. Worldwide, urban expansion is one of the primary drivers of habitat loss and alteration and of the extinction of plant and animal species. Yet, there are opportunities for transitions to sustainability. High population densities and compact urban design are required to support walkable neighborhood and mass transit alternative to the automobile. This, coupled with high residential and employment densities, can reduce energy consumption, vehicle miles traveled, and carbon dioxide emissions. It can also save land for agriculture, wildlife, and habitat by using less land for urban development. The trade-offs between environmental challenges and opportunities depends on how and where urban areas are expanding, urban lifestyles and consumption patterns, as well as the ability of institutions and government structures to address these issues. We live in a period of great transformation, when the scales, rates, and kinds of environmental changes have been fundamentally altered as a result of rapid population growth and urbanization. In 2008, humanity crossed a milestone when the global urban population exceeded the rural population for the first time in human history. This new era of urbanization has unique characteristics that differentiate it from other periods in human history. Number one, the scale of urbanization is extraordinary. Cities are bigger than any other time in terms of area, size, economy, and environmental impacts. Number two, the rate at which population and land cover are becoming urban is faster than any other time in history. Third, the location of urbanization shows a clear shift. In the 1950s through 70s, urban transition occurred in Europe and South America and is now occurring in Asia and Africa into their agricultural lands, forests, and other natural land covers. Number four, the form of urban settlement is changing. Urban areas are now becoming increasingly expansive and peri-urban, with significant differences between the developed and the developing countries. Fifth, urban function is being increasingly specialized, affecting thereby the urban labor force, lifestyles, and environment. Finally, all these characteristics interact and amplify their individual effects as these are interrelated. Individually, this suggests a significant break from periods of rapid urbanization in the past. Together, they represent the new era of urbanization. No doubt, we are living in the century of city, where urbanization defines our social, economic, and environmental characteristics. In this era of Anthropocene, when we are altering the functioning of the global environment, the term Asticene accurately describes this new urban era, where Anthropos is an Astos, a dweller of an urban area. Asti means city or town in Greek, and sin means new. Hence my topic is mapping the Asticene. These two tables have been prepared in 1960, after almost 5,000 years of human history. 1 billion urban population grew up. And the next 1 billion was incremented within the next 26 years. It took another 17 years for the addition of another 1 billion, another 15 years for another billion, another 13 years for another billion, and is expected in 2031 to reach 5 billion urban population. From 100 AD, the first 5 ranked cities of the world, we can map their progress. Like Rome was the first ranked city in 100 AD, which was replaced by Cordoba in 1000, and then replaced again by Beijing till 1800, and then replaced by London in 1900, and in 1950 by New York, and finally Tokyo. The second ranking city was Luoyang, China. It was replaced by Kaifeng in 1000 AD, and then Vijayanagar in India in 1500, replaced by London in 1800, replaced by New York in 1900, and then Tokyo in 1950, and then Mexico in 2000. Seleucia in Iraq was the third largest city in 100 AD. That was replaced by Constantinople in 1000, Cairo in 1500, Guangzhou in 1800, Paris in 1900, London in 1950, and New York in 2000. Fourth largest city was Alexandria in Egypt. That was replaced by Angkor Wat in 1000, and then Hangzhou in 1800, and then Berlin in 1900, then Shanghai in 1950, and now Sao Paulo in 2000. Antioch of Turkey was the fifth largest city in 100. It was replaced by Kyoto in 1000, Tabriz in 1500, Constantinople was 1800, Chicago in 1900, Paris in 1950, and now Mumbai in 2000. And it is expected these 5 cities, respectively, in 2025 will be Tokyo, second Mumbai, third Delhi, fourth Dhaka, and fifth Sao Paulo. So, see, all these cities, they are growing at a very, very rapid rate. Not only that, they are going at a differential rate. And we don't know what is in store for us in future. So mapping settlement and urban geography. The map is a cultural construct and an essential tool for creating human environments. The oldest known world map dates back to a Babylonian city clay tablet of the 6th century BC. They are renowned for constructing irrigation canals, surveying property lines, and representing their urban communities. They utilized key cartographic concepts like scale and orientation to convey a sense of their habitat, parameters of their urban environment, and their cosmological beliefs which link the physical with the metaphysical. Historically, social processes of settlement formulation include place and society, evolving together without any comprehensive pre-planning, perhaps adapting to geographic constraints or particular ownership. Other alternatives for urban formations include settlement patterns, being controlled by certain rules dictated by social, religious, or legal understandings and requirements, like laws of the Indies, the Islamic religious laws, and or interpretations of the literary works. A major aspect of settlement formation can be traced to our cultural as well as our emotional needs and desires. Some of these include consultation with the fields of cartography and geography for collated data that explicates the origin of the cities and the settlement pattern. In 2005, Google wrote, "We think maps can be useful and fun, so we have designed Google Maps to simplify how to get from point A to point B." Maps are always essential and contested as they shape decisions both serious and trivial, from mapping gene activity, crime risks, and rising housing prices to directing a pedestrian toward the most exotic cup of coffee or the most pleasant route to work. in the past, maps are more authoritative. The closely guarded documents that were the purview of the kings, generals, and the heads of the state. These people had power because they had maps. Cartography seemed something of a dead language as maps existed as static documents. Today, speed has increased, costs have decreased, and there are ever more robust tools available. Access to data has dramatically enhanced the functionality and also opened the floodgates to an array of possibilities. There has never been so much data available as there is now. More and more people are using it to make maps that are transforming the way we design cities. This new form of cut allows people to make themselves the center of the universe, creating a map specific to their desired and necessary uses. Even in what is perhaps the most common map-making scenario today, where Google owns the data and creates the product, each individual user is interacting with a different. The level of variance, outsourcing aids in the mapping of everything from usage patterns in national parks to the destruction of the Amazon rainforests. With iPhones, drones, or even just some helium and a balloon, one can now approximate Google's aerial mapping. Civic groups create mapping applications to help both government and citizens better understand what's going on in their neighborhood and approximate Google's aerial mapping. Civic groups create mapping applications to help both government and citizens better understand what's going on in their neighborhood and how to change them for the better. Their own experiences. Our relationship to maps has been completely transformed, as have the ways maps are made. Today, it helps us make sense of the most seemingly mundane and the controversial issues. Urban cartography is in a period of rapid innovation. But more important is, maps need to be not just provocative, but also credible. A high buzz exists about the intuitive maps in small circles only, but those outside that circle may wonder how durable this work really is. Does value occur? Any look at cartography today has to ask, is this just eye candy, or will it make a difference? A map cannot just look good, it must resonate. Posing the wrong problem results in what one map maker calls a beautiful mess. In global scale mapping, GIS is used in urban mapping. Previously, it was used to display the streets and land ownership information, smart transport, Internet of Things, traffic data. Therefore, new solutions cost less and last longer. A number of ways is growing as municipal tasks multiply over the years, over the days. GIS technology is a foundation of construction renovation maps, transport visualizations. It is also used to monitor disasters and inform people about health centers. GIS is very useful in delineating urban development. Technology alone is of more use to land management and construction departments. However, citizens may benefit from urban planning maps and smart infrastructure applications based on geodata. GIS also helps mapping the urban sprawl. And all these are done using the most modern urban mapping softwares like Urban Footprint, ArcCAD, NV 4.7, ArcGIS City Engine, QGIS, Urban Observatory, and Spectrum GIS. We can create a simple 3D city of our own if we have data with us. For this, we needed two-dimensional building footprints as well as airborne LiDAR data of reasonable resolution. That is more than 1 point per square meter. First, set up a map document with a file database containing the 2D building footprints. For terrain modeling and the extraction of 3D building models, 3 basic raster surfaces are required. Number 1, the digital terrain model, a raster representing the elevation of the bearer with structures and vegetation removed. This surface is used at the base elevation in the 3D scenes. Only those LiDAR points classified as ground return points are used. Digital surface models. A raster representing the elevation of all structures and natural features of the earth. The same kind of surface you would get if you just shrink wrapped the landscape. But only those LiDAR points classified as first return points are used. Then, normalized digital surface models, NDSM. This is used to model the height above the ground surface of structures and vegetation. And this is derived by subtracting the DSM from the DTM. That means NDSM equal to DTM minus DCGIS. After this, successfully creating the raster surfaces, the elevation of the buildings is determined by generating a set of random sample points for each building footprint. Elevation information from the NDSM raster elevation surface is now added to each sample point and stored in the building feature class. Thus, all the random points have an elevation or the Z value. Thus, ArcGIS summary statistics tool is run to get the mean elevation for each building, which is called the building footprint layer. City engine is finally run to generate the 3D buildings, as shown one example below. This is another example. The three cities, New York, London, and Tokyo, on the same scale, and the data of the same year. In these, they represent the densities of population. And these are the different layers, commercial establishments, location of the commercial and location of the industrial establishments. The colors, you can see the variation in their pattern, in their spread, and in their expanses. Open spaces, their distribution, their characteristics in all the cities, and urban footprint finally for the three cities. The historical boundaries can also be drawn for these cities. And lastly, for emergency zones and anti-crisis measures, this kind of map is very helpful. The outbreak of COVID-19 has shown that every country, state, and municipality has to see all the pictures instantly and react in a very fast manner. One account may contain disaster plans for multiple risks. Data is managed online, so remote work is efficient and accurate. The red areas are the areas affected by COVID, and all the remaining sample points are the centers where reading is taken continuously. Then regional scale mapping. Here is one just interferogram. I have incorporated one interferogram of the Calcutta city. It is reported that Calcutta is the sinking city now. This represents phase differences between 0 and 2 pi. The line of sight represents displacement that occurred between two Sentinel-1 data acquisitions, SLC data acquisitions. And the deformation depicts altitude differences relative to a point of assumed 0 vertical displacement and 0 horizontal displacement. This is just a work by Dipanjan Das Mujumdar of Jadavpur University. I have just collected it yesterday. So, in 2000, urban mapping was done by not only daily or near daily global observation data, such as Moody's, but also other types of satellite data, such as DMSP OLS, nighttime light data, ERS SAR data, and others. High resolution optical data like GeoEye-1, Worldview 2 are also used for local urban mapping of mainly three types: urban extent map, land cover map including urban classes, intra-urban map. This urban extent map shows only urban area, while intra-urban map is a classified map of the urban components such as buildings, streets, and trees. Global urban mapping is simply the land cover map or urban extent map, while local urban mapping is simply the intra-urban. In both the cases, supervised classification is used, as urban is too heterogeneous to apply unsupervised data. The key to successful urban mapping is to collect, therefore, better representative training data for urban or intra-urban classes. Urban extent mapping helps monitoring urban expansion and sprawling. And EULA 2018 has used this kind of methods. This is Association of Southeast Asian Nations urban mapping of this region. On local scale, they have used sensor resolution of 1 to 10 meter for intra-urban mapping. That means roof types, roads, trees, water. Very high resolution optical sensor, high resolution radar sensor, and Landsat type of sensor. And the classifier they have used: decision tree, random forest, support vector machine, thresholding, neural network, and others. For global scale, they have taken resolution of 250 to 500 meter. Urban class in land cover map, urban extent, daily or near daily global observation sensor, that is MODIS. Nightlight observation sensor, DMSP OLS. It gives the area through which possibly human action can be mapped. Radar data, Landsat type data, sensor. So this Hanoi, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, and Jakarta and Manila, the mapping of the urban extent is possible using all these things. Again, using MODIS data, 2001-2002, the urban areas has been mapped, and the bar graph shows the comparison starting from about 1988 till 2015, the extension of urban areas measured through satellite data using different sensors and other things. So the method is like this: flowchart of method, classification, and then decimetric mapping. Stanford used this. What is decimetric mapping? It uses secondary or multiple data sources to infer information from a primary data source to be projected to the primary data at a finer scale or in a more detailed way. It assumes that population resides in areas of impervious surface land cover. Thus, land cover data helps to infer where population resides within a general population zone, such as a district, a block, a ward. The land cover data and the population zone data are then combined in a complex mathematical way to produce more precise estimates as to where population resides. Thus, methodology comprises three different phases. One is classification of urban land cover, impervious surface from remotely sensed data, then decimetric mapping of urban areas according to population, and then integration of these outputs to produce comprehensive urban area raster maps and change analysis. Mind that decimetric mapping is more important than our most popular choropleth mapping. So this is the flowchart of map. Two different maps have been prepared to show the urban land cover and urban population of town Missouri in USA. This is the map where urban population density overlays the urban land cover in 2000. And this is the urban land cover overlaying the urban population density. This should be compared with a geographical perspective or eye to interpret the thing. Remote sensing data, mind that, it cannot capture socio-economic features very well. The geolocation data sets contain patterns of human movement related to the extent of urbanization. However, the integration of remote sensing and geolocation data is performed mostly at the city level because geolocation data sets have limitations. Tencent provides a large-scale location request density data set with a finer temporal resolution and makes large-scale urban mapping possible. These are combined on a 0.01 degree grid, high spatial resolution land cover products and the normalized difference built-up index from Landsat are then used to label all the samples. Zia, Chen and Li, they extracted a total of 176,000 square kilometers of urban areas in China using the random forest classifier with an overall accuracy of 90.8% and a kappa coefficient of 0.7. For 4 cities, the results show that nighttime lights and LED features contributed the most to the urban prediction results. These are more consistent with the normally interpreted urban boundaries of the cities. It shows the potential of 10-cent LRD data for the extension of large-scale urban planning and the reliability of the RF classifier based on a combination of RS and location data. This is the Moody's data 2017. Then 2018, population density, daily average LRD. Flowchart of analysis is data source, feature selection, RF classification, verification, and comparison.
Gopal Haldar, please.
And this is the final mapping. That
Stop
is the
presenting.
probability of urban area extraction using random forest classifier.
Gopal
A
Haldar, please.
is the Yangtze River Delta region, B is the Beijing Tianjin Hebei region, and C the Pearl River Delta region. They are accurate enough. For 4 cities, Shanghai, Changsha, Chengdu, and Wuhan, the urban extent mapping is almost 90.8% accurate than other census. And this is the boundary of actual urban boundary. A comparison shows that this random forest classification results the urban probability above 0.5. The actual urban boundary was acquired from the manual interpretation of Landsat 8 images and the cadastral data from the local land and resource bureau, and it almost matches. That is important. Then intra-urban mapping. Form refers to the shape and arrangement of human settlement, while structure is the way they are organized. Thus, form is described by density, size, grain, shape, pattern, and focal organization. It may be viewed as a product, that is the state of being, the shape and structure, mode of existence, design of human settlement, and basic nature. It can be viewed also as a process, that is the state of becoming, shaping of the human settlement, ordering in the hierarchy, arrangement, the conception of abstract idea or the mental symbol, mental mapping. Layout of a human settlement may be regular, irregular, may be gridded, may be radial centric, may be amorphous. And the physical determinants of settlement, we all know, may be geology, climate, river, topography, soil and natural vegetation, and man-made determinants, transport network, distribution of services and of amenities, housing, and government policy. And settlements originate depending on the resources for housing and fuel. Natural resources like fresh water supply, reliable food resources, suitable land for agriculture, trade areas, and transport corridors. Settlements transform as a result of urbanization, as a result of rapid population growth, non-organized settlements, primitive organized settlements, static urban settlements, dynamic urban settlements, and universal city. The form of a settlement is definitely a function of shape, structure, mode of existence, its design, its basic nature, its order, and abstract idea or mental model. Mind that the driving forces influence the functions of the settlements that in turn influence the origin, form, and transformation of the settlements. Nature of origin also has a bearing on the form of a settlement, while form and transformation of settlements are interdependent. Finally, origin, form, and transformation together define and describe the urban morphology. And what is urban morphology? It is the study of the form of urban settlements, along with their formation and transformation. It is a thriving field of inquiry involving researchers from a wide variety of disciplines. Basically, it is the study of physical form of a city, defined by street patterns, building, their shapes and sizes, architecture, population density, patterns of residential, commercial, industrial, and other uses. It changes over time and produces and reproduces various social forms embedded in urbanization. In American geography, Urban morphology as a particular field of study owes its origin to Louis Mumford in the 1930s, James Vance in 1960s, Werner in 1970s. In UK, there was Peter Hall, a central figure in the field of urban morphology. But in Europe, the word morphology has been used in various times by Dickinson, Smales and others in the 1950s. Morphology is concerned with plan and build of habitat and reflects its functions and idea of planning and building at each phase of its development. There are many variables of urban morphology: macro scale, neighborhood scale, and micro scale. Cultural production in city form, political control in town form, incremental nature of urban morphology and regional change, cultural context and orientation of contemporary urban planning. Usually, these are within the town or city scale. Neighborhood scale includes plot, block, urban form, CBD, lot, neighborhood forms, etc. Generally, these are a transition between in the different periods of its evolution.
Hello?
Some of these categories remain constant, while certain aspects are permanent. That there are rules of transformation over time that dictates changes to the fabric, and the organization and development of the fabric are not random, but follows laws that urban morphology tries to identify. Lille, 2009, he has identified 4 traditions of urban morphology, studies in urban morphology. The first is morphographic approach. It derives from a strong tradition of settlement study and landscape morphology in Central European geography, beginning with the work of Schlatter in 1890s. It is characterized by a concern for creating typologies of historic urban forms, especially medieval towns and the cities of the continental Europe. It was more concerned with iconography than morphology. It came from the continental Europe, mainly Germany and Italy, during the middle decades of the 20th century. By the 1940s, this morphogenetic approach came in, based on the principle of plan analysis, in which compositeness of town plans was recognized and put to use in mapping not typologies but histories of urban form. During the interwar period, it developed through a series of German historic town atlases that used larger scale town plans to identify the historic phases of development. Dickinson introduced this to a geography audience in Britain in the 1930s and undertook a study of town plans in the eastern England. It is given in his book West European City. And then Congenian approach. Congen believes that urban morphology seeks to explain the layout and spatial compositeness of urban structures and open spaces, their material character and symbolic meaning in terms of the forces that have created, expanded, diversified, and transformed them. He devised the town plan analysis to identify plan elements, streets, plots, and buildings, and use these to define areas of morphological homogeneity, each indicating a phase of urban morphogenesis. He viewed the formation and redevelopment processes through his deep analysis of streets, plots, and buildings, and paid particular attention to cyclical changes in form. For example, the formation of the fringe belts and the internal lines, the Burgage cycle. Then urban design approach. It was proposed in the International Seminar on Urban Form in 1992. Urban morphology strives to disclose the genesis or engendering processes of this built form created by human agents. It includes a kind of puzzle or structural determinism that remains unexplained. Thus, urban design cannot be considered as an expression of free will, but as a transaction with a range of natural laws, of which we fail to be fully aware. It happens due to technological advancements on the one hand and can be explained using social triangulation and ecological transects. However, urban morphology is not an end state by itself. Rather, it has forces against which it acts. It is a regulator of function and sets the orientation of the morphology. It is one of the determinants of the urban pattern, urban form, and urban space organization. It explores the social and cultural segregation within a city and tries to understand in terms of the people and processes shaping it. Thus, it helps predict urban changes. Wolpert believed that the structure of a town passes through the three developmental stages of histogenesis, paternogenesis, and morphogenesis. Histogenesis is the origin of historical nucleus of a town. Settlement starts concentrating around a nucleus. For example, a religious site, fort, lake, etc. And then the centripetal force was active in this process. Paternogenesis is the phase of development of various nuclei of urban settlements and their interactions ultimately providing a skeletal pattern of the town. It happens with the development of roads and structures. Thus, the sectoral development of town takes place and centrifugal forces becomes active. And then morphogenesis. It can be perceived in the morphological character, closely associated with the functional character of the city. Then we will discuss something about the morphology of the Indian cities. Brush studied the morphology of Indian cities and found that it is associated with the existing layout of streets, arrangement, and characteristics of buildings, and the associated land use pattern. The three basic models, as you know, are the concentric model of Burgess, sectoral model of Hoyt, multiple nuclei model of Harris and Ullman. However, no Indian town purely follows these models, though a lot of variations in the city structures are found, ranging from fully planned and modern westernized cities to more or less indigenous cities, yet a varying blend of the Orient with the Occident and with a distinctive Indianness is a common feature. The four types of cities in India are indigenous cities with one dominant node. These are numerically dominant and follows the Glacier-Clark model of urban density gradient. Number two, anglicized port cities, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, that have lower densities in the city center as contrasted with the indigenous cities. 2.2 node cities, Hyderabad, Secunderabad, and Mysore, Bangalore. Planned cities for Salt Lake, where the population density is lower throughout and the density crest is not necessarily in the center. And this is some of the land use maps I have collected from the internet. Mysore, Pune, Bhubaneswar, Patna. You see the shape and size of the different colored patches. Hyderabad, New Delhi, Guwahati, Chennai, Calcutta, Howrah, and Bangalore. See the arrangement of the roads. See the distribution of the colored patches, giving the extension of the urban areas. And in Salt Lake City, Gurgaon, Calcutta, Howrah showing the metro routes and the planned Chandigarh town. And this shows the urban extent, progress of urban sprawls as studied for Barashat from 1990s to 2014. And these are the lines along which urban expansion or sprawling has taken place. And these are more accurate representation of this. And from the part of the government of India, there are some initiatives like smart cities. The Ministry of Urban Development initiated a centrally sponsored National Urban Information System during the 10th 5-year plan. Urban Spatial Information System and National Urban Data Bank and Indicators. And the database will be developed at 3 levels, 3 scales. 1:10,000 scale, showing the development of master plan for 152 towns. 1:2000 scale, database for detailed town planning schemes using high resolution remotely sensed data sources, principally aerial photography. And then 1:1000 scale utility maps using ground profiling or penetrating radar technology. The data, when one asks for, shall be delivered in digital format only, along with 2 sets of color reprints. And this is the flowchart of their methodology, and this is the organizational structure of it. But what is the matter of concern is that till April 2016, this 1:1000 scale map, it is decided jointly by Survey of India and Town and Country Planning Organization New Delhi to drop 1:1000 utility map survey, since no firm or agencies came forward to do this job. Very unfortunate for a country like India and for a subject like us, one of the most favorite urban geography. Not only that, the data will be used for internal use only and not vetted by SNA. And it is decided that the project may be closed henceforth. That means this project no longer exists. So it's very difficult in India to study urban areas correctly until and unless you have your own data. What can we do with mapping about the historical settlements? The rapidly growing global population faces cultural heritage at great risk. The encroachment of modern settlement on archaeological sites means that valuable information about how past societies worked and interacted with the environment is lost. To manage and mitigate this, knowledge is required about what has been lost and what remains to decide, what should be investigated and what should be preserved for the future. Remote sensing provides the archaeologists with some of the tools for this. Raja and others, they applied multi-temporal, multi-sensor data to map features and to chart the impacts of urban encroachment on the ancient city of Jerash in modern Jordan by combining archives of aerial photography dating back to 1970 and the state-of-the-art airborne laser scanning. The results show the details of the water distribution system and the ancient city plan. It demonstrates that by combining historical images with modern aerial and ground-based data, we can successfully detect and contextualize these features and thus achieve a better understanding of life in a city in the past. These methods are essential as much of the ancient city has been lost to modern development and the historical imagery is our only source of information. So we have such historical towns in India, more than one, to be explored. This is the 1992. This is Jerash. This 2015. See the growth of the towns. These are urban areas. You can see climate change initiative. It is exponentially increasing. This is the originally 1898 picture of Jerash. And this is 2015 pictures. Note the extensive clearance of rubble. Construction of tracks and reconstruction of ruins in the foreground. An expansive desert. In this art. This is 1953 photograph and this is 2015 urban expansion in and around Jerash. It has been dramatic. This is the original city wall. They are visible along with a large number of sub-rectangular features. Most probably they indicate the building foundations. And the impact of recent activity on the ancient city, showing proportions of the area within the city walls affected. So most of the area is affected by modern construction, followed by excavation and cleared, and third by the rubbles. See, the almost the eastern half of the Jeddah city has been lost. I'll show you now some historic city images of our country and countries around the world. This is Vijayanagara, Hampi. This is city of Ur. And then Calicut. See the paintings, the original map prepared at that time. This is the city of Kannur. This is Delhi of 1857 probably. And this is Goa. At that time, the capital of the Portuguese East India Company. This is Calcutta. And this is the plan of Pondicherry, the planned city of Pondicherry. This is Mahe of 1726. And this is Rangoon of the subcontinent. This is the planned site, and this is the new growth area. And this is our Hooghly town, 1721. This is Chandanagar, and this is the plan of Serampur in 1762. See the road conditions there. How rectangular, how planned the cities were there. This is Calcutta. This is again Calcutta 1842. This is Bombay, and this is Pondicherry. This is Cochin, Delhi 1857. Goa, capital of Portuguese East Indies in 1595. And then I'll conclude with urban design and abstract art. It is definitely a period of designing the urban areas, starting from Nikola Tesla, map to multiplication, composites and primes. See, these are the maps with networks of different dimensions of transport, of importance. And simply, these are the blocks, city walls. They have been mapped in such a way that they have assumed some figures. Is it interesting? This is the modern urban art. These are the highways along which the city developed. This direction, and this direction, this direction, and this direction, they are all connected by ring-like transport. And these are the modern urban forms with flyovers and other things. As usual, what we see at present. These are the networks of tubes, tube rails. Benghazi, these are the tube rails of different cities across the world. This is New York, and this is one example of our green city concept. These are the buildings now that maintain the environmental situation. And this is one advertisement of London Marathon. And then flyovers, and the night-time scenario of transport and human habitations or movements. And here is my observations. The geospatial technology efficiently helps urban extent mapping, land cover mapping, and intra-urban mapping. It also helps to map ancient cities and to explore how much has been lost and exactly what is required for preservation and conservation. The analysis of the output certainly teaches us how to live with the environmental sustainability. But the areas of concern to us are investigative studies about histogenesis has been missing for quite some time in our country. The geographical regularity or order cannot be identified without research about Paternogenesis. Again, this is seriously missing. The exploratory studies about the urban functions that shape urban morphology demands immediate address, along with the country-specific and time-specific social, political, and environmental issues. Personally, I did offer this particular subject of research to many scholars since 1996, but I failed to convince them, or rather, they had their own choices. Even now, I am ready to help if anybody is interested. Please contact. Thank you. I will end my lecture with some lines from Eliasson. Map the holes, gaps, and crevices in your life. Examine their emotional tone, dark, light, color. Walk into the void. Perforate your everyday navigational maps. Embrace chance encounters. Your local social fabric is restaged. And as you map anew, move toward interdependence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that enlightening talk. Thank you, sir, for condensing the complex concepts of urban geography, how urban mapping evolved, and finally how urban mapping has transcended into an art. Sir, but due to paucity of time, we now need to, we cannot take the question answers right now. We can hopefully do it sometime later, like over mails, and we will definitely connect the participants with you at some later point. But now we have to transfer the session for the second speaker. So I would like to hand over the session to my fellow colleague, Sharmishta Das ma'am. Over to you, Sharmishta ma'am.
Thank you so much, Indrita. Good evening to all. I welcome to everyone to our second session of this international webinar. This session is Dr. Raktim Roy, Teaching Fellow, the Berkeley Development Planning Unit, University College London, London, UK. It is my great pleasure to introduce such an eminent personality, Dr. Raktim Roy. He is the Teaching Fellow and Joint Program Leader of MSc Development Administration and Planning in Development Planning Unit of University College of London. He has done his both undergraduate and postgraduate from University of Calcutta. He has completed Master of Planning in Housing from SET University, India. He has completed his PhD title, Spatial Advocacism as Practices for Conflict Politics, Theorizing Urban Politics in Kolkata, India from the Open University, UK in March 2020. He has been working in this field since 2011. He has enjoyed his work as project assistant in University of Wisconsin and as a research assistant in SET University of India. He has joined in the Department of Planning, School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada, as an assistant professor in 2015. After that, he worked as an assistant professor in Department of Planning, Aurora Design Academy, India. He was the faculty in the Department of Planning, School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal, India. Presently, he is serving as the Teaching Fellow in the Development Planning Unit, the Berkeley University College, London, UK. He has keen interest in the field of urban geography, post-colonial theory, decolonial methods, critical ethnography, and critical development studies, and so on. He was involved as consultant in different projects in the year 2018-2019 under the Open University. Apart from these, he was engaged as co-investigator and external consultant in the various projects of Andhra Pradesh government. He has been awarded from different institutes since 2009. Early career study visit scheme from University of Sheffield in 2020, Faculty of Arts and Social Science in the Open University of additional funding for submission grant in 2019, to name a few. He received research grant from Government of Maharashtra for detailed study on inclusive and integrated approach in district level regional planning for Kolhapur in 2014 and 15. Another research grant was allotted for him from Government of India to conduct a thorough research on traditional housing typologies in coastal areas of Andhra Pradesh. He has presented his papers in various international conferences and also been invited to talk in different conferences in national and international level. He has many publications in various national and international journals bearing high impact factor. I welcome Dr. Roy in this session, and I would like to request him to present his paper on Informal Politics of the Urban, a post-colonial understanding of the state. Over to Dr. Raktim Roy.
আমি কি এক সেকেন্ড একটু বলতে পারি?
Yeah, please go ahead.
এক সেকেন্ড। Raktim, I'm feeling proud that you are one of my students who have excelled this much over the last few years. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Two things they have forgot to mention, that you are a presidential and you are a student of AS. Is it not?
Me also.
Thank you.
Me also. He is also student of me.
Now why didn't you tell me? Okay. Kaya.
Well, thank you, Dr. Das, for such a generous introduction of mine. And yeah, some of the research grant were awarded jointly with my colleagues, so I don't share the all responsibility and credit for that. So just to mention that. And also, I want to thank Dr. Mahato and Indrita for putting together this panel and inviting me to speak. And also to Subroto Rana, who has also supported technically for organizing this webinar. However, the only visible and vocal voices are male. I think it is also necessary for me to acknowledge my own complicity in this process, while I hope bringing these issues upfront, which might disrupt the conventional norms of academic spaces being male-dominated. As we have seen, mostly the previous speaker has gave an eloquent presentation on how we can look urban from different cartographic methods. I want to distance myself from that proposition, and I also try to provoke from that how we can look urban beyond maps, where mainly urban is kind of, we ignore urban politics in the process of doing things. And I want to bring forward this idea of urban politics in the process to disrupt some of our identity and understanding of the urban, particularly in the context of post-colonial cities. So I'll start with a play, an analogy of Samuel Beckett's play of Waiting for Godot. In Samuel Beckett's play, when one protagonist, Estrogan, proposes Vladimir, the other protagonist, to leave, Vladimir responded, "We are waiting for Godot." The play also ends when Estrogan didn't leave, not even Vladimir to leave. Ends with when none of them moves. Like, why I am bringing this analogy of Waiting for Godot here? Because I think Waiting for Godot can be interpreted in three different ways. Firstly, for the people at the urban margin of Calcutta, the wait for an alternative urban future never ends. Here, urban temporality operates at different socio-spatial scale and symbolizes continuous violence on the waiting population. Simultaneously, waiting can also be interpreted as a disjuncture between expectations and desire, the people who are waiting for it. This chronic waiting also hinders any kinds of radical politics to practice and counter state and change urban spatiality and put forward their rights in the city. Waiting can also be seen as a very productive creative social space, which encourages new forms of relation, political praxis, as well as an alternate future, which is muddled up with uncertainty, a language yet to develop, a future yet to come. As Abdul Malik Simon has mentioned in his book, for the city yet to come. The city is still yet to come. It's still not built. It's continuously under the process of building, remaking, making, categorization and recategorization through repetitive everyday practices and continuous iteration. At this particular juncture, the city becomes the essential discursive field where waiting symbolizes violence, capital accumulation, subsequent dispossession of poor people, and simultaneously an informal political action for exercising people's right in the city. When we speak about informality and urban margins, we often perceived with image of slum settlements and jhuggi jhopris. Today, I want us to think beyond jhuggi jhopris as informality. I want to provocate how we can look at urban margins beyond slum settlements. Here, the images, of course, one of the image shows a slum settlement, which is the second image. However, the other images are not kind of perceived image of an informality. The first top image is actually an industrial site, a jute mill site near Titagarh, where the below slide, the last image is actually a power grid project under Kolkata. I particularly provocate us to think them also as urban margin. Why they are margin? Because there is always an elusive boundary between the state and society. It is present through its illegibility and violence. I want to use the way Iftikhar has used his idea of grey spaces. By grey, he means it has a whiteness of legality and blackness of illegality. These urban margins always try to destabilize the overall norms of modernity. They are unpredictable, their precariousness, through their precariousness, but they are also discursive, the way they challenge certain norms of politics. For me, urban margins are zones of awkward engagements, as Anna Singh has mentioned in her work. So these are open sites for enactment of different kind of political relation, which exist in precariousness of stability, oscillates between legal and illegal. However, these are also generative spaces for political innovation, and often challenges the post-colonial state through its discursive practices. So now I'll give some of the examples of informality at urban margins from my own research work in Calcutta. And I also want to share this idea that I don't own this knowledge of which I am trying to represent. My research participants who were intricate part of my research, they also own the same kind of knowledge. Those people are villagers from Bhangur, jute mill workers, as well as slum dwellers in Salt Lake. So I also kind of have my own gratitude to share the knowledge with them. So my first picture is from a slum or squatter, which we formally call them, near Robindra Okakura Bhavan in Salt Lake. Bapi lives in that shanty. Like many other dwellers of the shanty, Bapi also migrated from Kolkata, from a village. Similarly, like others, Bapi cannot furnish his proof of address in the city. Without this proof of address, Bapi cannot make an identity document in the city, which would make him accessible to any municipal or state services. Even if there is a rehabilitation plan which is there, he can't access it without furnishing his address, because he can't make an Aadhaar card. So what Bapi has done, Bapi used the nearest petrol pump's address as a proof of address for his home, where he has some acquaintance, and used that address to make Aadhaar card. Here, Aadhaar card, making this Aadhaar card actually provides Bapi an apparatus to claim his citizenship in the urban, which is Calcutta. But simultaneously, Bapi also knows acquiring this Aadhaar card doesn't help him with his precariousness living in this urban margin. Bapi knows that he can be evicted any time. So this Aadhaar card provides him partial legitimacy to stay in the squatter, and also provides him with the opportunity to claim his right for rehabilitation if there is any eviction. This legitimacy is partial because Bapi can demonstrate his eligibility for urban citizenship, and they also can prevent to be called as Bangladeshi immigrants. Here, urban living is dependent on an ambiguous form of alternative governmentality, as Srivastava has mentioned. This alternative form of governmentality serves two purposes. Firstly, it enables Bapi to navigate across different social networks, and also helps the post-colonial state to establish subjects living on the urban margin. For Srivastav, this alternative governmentality is a topography of deception. As Sriraman has wonderfully discussed in her book, that how Aadhaar cards becomes the trapdoors for entitlement of urban poor, where these documents sometimes act as a proof of nationality, sometimes they are spatial identity, sometimes as a mean to claim urban citizenship. Bapi constructs his spatial identity through navigating across power networks, mobilizing his social capital, which enables him to exert his rights in the city. However, Bapi also knows the precarity of his spatial identity as he is standing on the verge of eviction. Another eviction like many others in his life. Each eviction can be read as Bapi's life history. The violence on his body, loss of belongings, failure of his mobilization strategies. For him, each eviction is an assemblage of distorted spatial identities. After each eviction, Bapi would again go back to the space and reappropriate his spatial identity through informality. My second example is from Lumtek's jute mill in Titagarh, which shows another kind of informality. I call this informality as occupancy, where workers' quarter allocation is usually done in a suspicious way, as the housing available for the jute mill workers are quite less in number than the workers who are looking for a housing. So there are different kind of informal politics which operates within the jute mill site, which helps some people to acquire the labor housing. So what has done, and I also want to highlight here, neighborhood clubs and goons in that local area also shape who is going to get access to those housing. If the key is not available, they can also break the lock of already allocated property to some worker and put someone else there in exchange of some money. Here, as a result, everyone doesn't have access to that. The access is only given to people, the people who has better network, and they can navigate within the power network which is available in that particular neighborhood. This creates a condition which Derlich has said as hegemonic locals, who shapes the relationship between different actors who are involved. This also demonstrates there is an interconnectedness between the neighborhood politics and mill politics of Lumtex, where power gets utilized, mobilized, or used as a coercive means through the same actors. This nature of informality helps us to analyze how people maneuver across different networks of power. Here, post-colonial state, being illegible, operates through local clubs, tyrants, and neighborhood associations. And for the people of the margin, creates a transactional relationship with the state apparatus. Now, looking at informality from below, and looking at informality, though I hate this idea of from below and above, I do not like this binary identification. However, for the betterment of understanding what I'm trying to portray here, I would say that these are the informalities from below. And most of the time, when we talk about informality, we feel that poor people are only responsible for channelizing and mobilizing for informal politics. However, my research also criticized that idea and parochial notion of informality. I also argue that post-colonial state, being a very important part of the process, also shapes informality and practice some kind of informality which are otherwise practiced. So now I'm going to show you some examples how post-colonial state also enable certain kind of informality. So this first image is actually from a notice which was put in the factory wall. And it's probably not very legible to you, but I just zoomed what is mentioned here. So it says that various acts of indisciplined activities and active involvement in conspiracy to disturb the working of the mill for their vested interests. So which means that some people are Gate Bahar in the process of the mill operation because they were indisciplined, they were involved in conspiracy, they were not working properly. What Gate Bahar means in jute mill terms, Gate Bahar means temporary suspension by carteling workers indefinite time period without serving him or her any kind of notice. This practice is commonly used by the mill management for intimidation. When a worker is get bahar, he or she doesn't receive any wages, and it is also difficult for them to predict when they can join the work again. It is a practice for unlimited temporary suspension. It is a curtailment of workers' right. And why management kind of enact this kind of practices? So that they cannot raise voice against the management for any kind of practices of exploitation of laborers. And also, this shows us a very interesting shop floor geography and politics of shop floor politics, which shows that this is also a way to establish domination and discipline in the shop floor. Well, so here I read Get Bahar, as Ranajit Guho has said, as dominance without hegemony. Dominance without hegemony can be interpreted as the existence of disciplinary power without fully subsuming the identity of the subordinate. The incident here for Get Bahar shows it is as a spatial as well as a temporal ad hoc practice. The temporal dimension comes from the precariousness of the worker's right to work. The duration of indefinite suspension of work primarily depends on when the worker is agreed to give consent to the management clauses. That means quickly they can be disciplined, they can join the work again. And in this way, this also shows a different kind of spatial politics at shop floor. The reshaping of this spatial politics represents a more skewed relationship between the worker and mill management, where mill management capitalizes on this form of advocism by making the workers' condition more precarious and minimize their bargaining capacity. Now, my next example is also from the Lumtex mill in Titagarh, which shows that the left-hand side of the image shows a previous officer's bungalow within the mill compound, and now this particular bungalow is used for marriage occasions, for rent. They give for rents to conduct marriage occasions, different parties. And this kind of conversion of land, which is an agricultural land for unknown use of commercial purpose, is not permitted as per the building regulation. But still, the management continues to do that. The right side image also shows in the same mill, there is a bounded property which has been put this signboard there, which mentions that all kinds of automobile works are done here. What does it mean? That means there is a suspicious activity of claiming that land and converting that land for non-industrial use for different activities, which may slowly turn into some real estate development. And why they have created all this ambiguity? Because this ambiguity serves two purposes. Firstly, it allows the management to convert industrial lands for commercial use, and hence gives the management to maximize their profit through other means than industrial operations. So it is the way management try to accumulate their capital through informal way. And secondly, as the workers are not sure about the status and the nature of the conversion, this kind of informality potentially reduces any conflict between the mill management and the laborers. So here, this informality serves a counter strategy to enactment of any kind of radical politics by the workers. My third example of informality comes from Salt Lake. So my left side image in the presentation shows Ram, who used to live in a shanty, and his shanty got evicted. He got evicted from that shanty, and the shanty was demolished. So my right side of the image, if your right side also, if I'm not very sure, which is the tin roofed house, which is very newly built, where Ram got a rehabilitation after his eviction. And how informality can be mobilized in the process of eviction and also in the process of rehabilitation, I am trying to show that through these images. Here, sites of eviction and rehabilitation for Ram becomes what Sannal has called as zones of waiting. What Romula Sannal has sees that these zones are intersection of precariousness and possibilities. She states, quote, on the one hand, this increases their vulnerability and in many cases destitution. On the other hand, they find ways to make do and hope for an alternative future. Waiting thus becomes an active process, shaping subjectivities, lived experiences, and future, unquote. For Ram, like many others, waiting becomes a special subjectivity of precariousness, hope, and violence. Waiting also enables Ram to express his desire for the qualification of urban citizenship, to have access to urban resources, to exert his rights in the cities. Simultaneously, this waiting also symbolizes his continuous disenfranchisement from the process of exerting his rights over the urban space. Why? I am trying to now show that why this is very different, unique case study, because the rehabilitation site which Ram got, those tin roofed house, Ram didn't build or occupied space for after eviction. Who built those spaces? A municipal contractor under whom Ram works. He drives his car. Ram got this rehabilitation. So what happened here is the municipal contractor occupied another public land and built those tin roofed houses and gave Ram a rehabilitation from his evicted property in the exchange of some money. And what is the interest for the contractor to do that? Because Ram, like many others who are also got rehabilitated in that property, works as a casual labor force for the contractor for the construction of road. He knows if these people are getting evicted and leave the city, going back to their villages, he is going to lose a pool of laborers, casual low-wage laborers. So he doesn't want to do that. And that's why he navigated within the municipal network and the municipal mayor and other councillor in that area occupied a land on behalf of these evicted poor people and built this. And he also gave Ram a 3 years time period to stay. He said that you can only stay here for 3 years. I asked Ram what you are going to do after 3 years. He replied, I don't know. This is our life. We continuously get evicted from one place to another. This kind of transactional relationship, what the municipal contractor does with people at the margin of the state, serves two purposes. Firstly, it allows the state to allow selective allowance of right for people at the margin and using them for vote bank politics. Secondly, it also allows people at the margin and also for their discipline and domination, and subsequently allows inflow of capital for special appropriation. However, here, informality also allows them to deploy contingent practices of violence without being fully registered or minimize the likelihood of any protest. My next image is from Bhangor, informality from Bhangor. What I'm trying to show here, there are two agricultural lands. You can see the land which has some electric poles. That land is already converted for construction of a power grid. The land which is not having those power grids are also getting converted in recent future. If you can see, there is a small black sign there which is written at ACZ. That means Special Economic Zone. So the land has already transacted and changed of ownership and made for conversion. Whereas the power grid one encourages the villagers for a massive protest which went for almost 2 years, as some of you know probably from the newspaper, whereas the land which also got converted never encountered any kind of protest, and this is just 500 meters from each other. Why? Because the reason being, as you can see, Sufi has said, one of my respondents, that they haven't developed those lands yet. They just purchased those land and made a boundary around those land. We can still do our farming as the construction has not started yet. Where the construction in the power grid encounter a massive police violence as well as protest from the villagers, the land which also got converted, change of ownership, never encountered any kind of protest because the villagers still feel they have agriculture still not converted yet. The conversion is yet to come. And I'm trying to have this idea and the trope of yet to come which is very much omnipresent in post-colonial urbanism as a joining thread between all my examples of informality. So, what is a post-colonial state? Here, the image shows a amazingly done sculpture in the US-Mexico border by the artist Marcos Ramirez Ere, which is called as Toan Horse. What does it mean? It means the way post-colonial state is always ambiguous and ambivalent, having two kinds of identity. In overall literature, when we say neoliberalism has made states more entrepreneurial, where people's rights are getting curtailed on the interest of post-colonial capital, my argument against that is post-colonial state cannot be only read as an entrepreneurial state. Rather, post-colonial state also does certain kind of selection of allowance of rights to the people, particularly the poor people, for their own political survival through vote bank politics. Here, the state rehabilitates the disposed in the wasteland, which is created by the same primitive accumulation of capital which disposes them. So here, disposition and rehabilitation of capital happens simultaneously. This operationalization of politics of exclusion happens through what Goodfellow has called as informal politics and argues it involves both convention and contention. Here, informal politics cannot be only read as a residual category of the form. Rather, informal politics rebuilding we can see and we can put forward. My argument is like some of the knowledges which are existing in the post-colonial urban areas and some of those practices which I have just shown you are to the European modernity, form the kind of geographical model as my previous speaker has shown about Burgess, Homer Hyatt and other kind of modernity-based urban models. Because these practices cannot be encapsulated in those models because they are untranslatable. Mahashita Devi, in her work, Pterodactyl, Puran Sahaya and Pritha, describe that there is no language or translatable language of exploitation in whole language because never encountered any kind of exploitation. So certain kind of indigenous knowledge, vocabularies and language are completely untranslatable. And this inadequacy of language and vocabulary also makes otherness more pivotal and also more contingent. My proposition here, why can't we bring incompleteness as an important theoretical category? By incompleteness, what I mean, I'm going to discuss that after a few times. But firstly, what I propose here, which I coined in my own research as a term called spatial adhocism. All my examples are in a way formulate some kind of ad hoc practices or the other. What is adhocism then? Adhocism acts what Lévi-Strauss has called as bricolage. For Lévi-Strauss, bricolage is a performance of diverse activities in a non-hegemonic structure. For all these cases, I have shown that this kind of informality arises from urgency and reappropriation of space. Here, the element of urgency is not impromptu, it's ambiguous solution, rather it's a strategic mechanism operationalized through various practices of different actors and networks of power. The reappropriation of space happens through negotiation, violence, compromises, where it becomes spheres of multiplicity and relation, as Doreen Macy has mentioned. So here, assemblage is what Deleuze and Guattari has said, a new becoming, a constellation of materials and actions and forms of heterogeneous relations. Finally, this kind of example also shows that informality is omnipresent in post-colonial cities. They don't act only in informal settlements like slums, they are present in industrial land, they are present in agricultural land, they are enacted by people at the urban margins, they are enacted by the state as well. So here, for me, the spatial adhocism becomes a methodological apparatus through which post-colonial urbanism can be theorized and understood. Conceptually, I propose two formations. Firstly, it attempts to destabilize the formation of law as a normative apparatus. Here, law acts as a constitutive power which forms new social relations. On one hand, the squatter dwellers' engagement for getting an Aadhaar card in non-legal way, simultaneously getting evicted for the illegal occupation of land. So here, illegality is an opportunity as well as a challenge. So there is a multiple subjectivity which is also associated with that. Secondly, this also challenges my framework of spatial advocism, also challenges the idea of malpractice by post-colonial state. Here, spatial advocism unsettles the idea of malpractice and makes that as a constitutive category of the post-colonial state formation because of its colonial history and exploitation. Here, malpractice cannot be read as a failure of institution. Rather, it establishes malpractice as a self-defense mechanism for the post-colonial state. For the state, this self-defense mechanism enables them to overlook the legal status of different kinds and helps them to sponsor rehabilitation of the evicted people because of capital accumulation process. Here, the image which I have shown in this slide is an artwork by Indian artist Priya Ravish Mehra, which is called as Rafu. As most of us know, kind of work to stitch some broken piece of a cloth. Why I use this idea of Rafu? Because it damages something, it repairs. As Gautam Bhan has mentioned in his plenary lecture, why can't we put repair as an important theoretical category? Why architectural schools, we can't treat repair as an important practice? Because we always do repairing and kind of manipulation in the process. So by acknowledging Bhan and others' contribution here, I acknowledge that this repair can be an incomplete category, because repair is never complete. It never hides the damage which is there in the process, but simultaneously it makes some make-do arrangements. So here, as a normative theorization of the Eurocentric understanding of post-colonial cities, I propose, as a methodology, the framework of spatial advocism first helps us to understand different subjectivities that exist within different parts of the society, civil society, political society, as well as with the state. By doing so, I challenge many of the normative idea of spatio-temporal understanding of the city. It also shows the variability and dynamicity which exist within the state as well as people of the margin. Here I make a proposition to include incompleteness as an important theoretical category which destabilizes our theory building process and construct theorization as a continuous process of iteration. Here, theory building is an open-ended process. Such iterative theorization not only make theory building as a generative process, but also decenters urban knowledge production from its centrality, rather Eurocentrism. This decentering of urban knowledge production is not only makes us appropriate, not only makes us to appreciate and acknowledge certain vocabularies and knowledges which are untranslatable, exist within their multiplicity, they are generative, because they hold the possibility of a creative rupture. Here, rupture is very essential because we need to understand the discursive political field which unfolds different complexities, dynamism of the post-colonial urbanism. I acknowledge the importance, this particular theorization acknowledges the importance of a theory which is generative and yet to be built. And finally, epistemologically challenges the urban knowledge production process. So I end up with Ashley Bembe's quote, "We are 12 in my body, we are packed like sardines." In other words, the being that I may exist each time in several modes, or let us say several beings, which although sometimes mutually exclusive, are nevertheless inside one another. This shows how post-colonial state is a constituent part of the informality and the entanglement of radical politics and their history. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raktim Rai. It was indeed a great opportunity to listen to you. You have enriched us by your fascinating presentation. where you have explained lucidly about informal politics of the urban and post-colonial period. I hope that all the participants have enjoyed this session very much. And as we are running short, so the question answer session may be conveyed to you over email. And I am privileged to thank you on behalf of my department for your splendid and informative presentation. I convey my sincere gratitude to you as you have accepted and given consent to attend our international webinar in spite of your busy schedule. Thank you, Dr. Raktim Roy. I would like to request Dr. Amorish Mondol, our IQSC coordinator, Krishnagar Government College, to end up this session. Over to Dr. Amorish Mondol. Over to Dr. Amorish Mondol. Yes, where? Yes. Dr. Mondol, please.
Unmute
Dr.
yourself.
Amorish Mondol.
Amores, can you listen?
Unmute.
Dr. Mondol, can you hear us?
Amorish Mondol, please.
He's unmuted. You are muted, Amorish Mondol. Dr. Amorish Mondol, you are muted. Please unmute yourself. Amorish da.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Am I audible?
Now you are audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Now, this is the time when short talks, toasts, and gracious words are in demand. Be inspired by these words on thanks, joy, and gratefulness. According to Gilbert K. Chesterton, I would maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought, and that gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. Honorable Chairperson, respected speakers, their support staff, my esteemed colleagues of the postgraduate department of geography and other departments, my beloved students and other respected participants of the webinar. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this international webinar on contemporary urban scene, organized by the Department of Geography in collaboration with Internet Quality Assurance Set, Government College. On behalf of the IQSC Krishnagar Government College and the Department of Geography, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our most valued speakers with their presence and took out valuable time of your busy schedule. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Professor Ashis Sarkar, editor of Indian Journal of Spatial Science, West Bengal Senior Education Service, former head, Department of Geography, Presidency College, for his vivid and very beautiful presentation on urban mapping. And I may like to express our sincere thanks and appreciation to Dr. Raktim Rai, Fellow, the Bartlett Development Planning Unit, University College London, United Kingdom, for his excellent explanatory presentation on information politics of the urban, a post-colonial understanding of the state. I would like to emphasize that their two valuable lectures definitely enlighten all the participants of the webinar. Once again, sir, on behalf of our college, I express our sincere thanks to you, Professor Sarkar and Dr. Roy. I also wish to express my gratitude to our officer in charge, Dr. Prof, for providing encouragement and support for organizing such webinars. I would express my hearty congratulations to Dr. Leela Mahato, head of the Department of Geography, and all members of Geography family of Krishnagar Government College. Their collective efforts are making the webinar successful. I would like to express my love and thanks to Subrata Rana, Kaushik Sarkar, Indita Saha, Krishnandu Sarkar, and others for maintaining uninterrupted technical support during the webinar. I express my thanks to all members of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of my college and all my colleagues, students, and all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. Thank you everybody for making this webinar successful with your contribution. Finally, I would like to express our thanks to the Department of Higher Education, Government of West Bengal for direct patronizing on all the activities in our college. And now I am announcing the completion of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, for the entire participants, thank you for being so patient with all the technical glitches that we had. But thank you for staying with us for so long. And also for information to all the participants, feedback form and all the PowerPoint presentation will be mailed to the registered email ID of all the participants at the earliest. We would like to inform that since the total number of participants were huge, it will take us at least 5 days to mail the feedback link and the presentations to all. So with this note, we would like to end this webinar and thank you all for being there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, IC sir, for the task.